Hello, welcome to CIS 4510 IT Project Management. In this session, we will address the system view of project management and how it applies to IT projects. Part of managing projects is to understand the organization structure and culture. We need to explain the importance of stakeholders and top management commitment to the success of the IT project. In addition, we need to understand the project life cycle, and at last we will discuss the trends that affects the IT project management, such as globalization, outsourcing, virtual teams, and agile project management. The organization projects must operate within the organization environment. The way to approach and manage the project should be from system point of view, taking a holistic view of the execution of the project. Senior management must make sure projects continue to support current business needs. The holistic approach is called systems thinking. The systems approach emerged in the 1950s to describe a more analytical approach to management and problem solving. The approach includes three parts, which is the systems philosophy, and that is the overall model for thinking about things as systems. The systems analysis, and that's the part where you get involved with the problem solving approach, with analyzing the data that you have, analyzing the business or analyzing the system. And then systems management, which is the part where you start addressing the business, the technology, the organizational issues before making any changes, any decisions on the system. For example, we have the Press Associated, which is a company. It's the largest news agency in the United Kingdom. They hired a consulting firm to help turn things around after management noticed its profit margins were sliding. The consultant or the consultants suggested using systems thinking approach and a top-down strategy to make sure projects supported key business goals. They have already projects in place. The most important thing is to understand that those projects are supporting the business and the business goals. So they need to analyze, they need to look at these projects and see if they do support the business. They also suggesting releasing short-term results to add benefits on an incremental basis and reviewing projects on a regular basis to ensure strategic alignments. So we need to look at these projects, look at the results, and see if they serve the goal of the business. So those are the two suggestions that the consultant came up with: the system approach or system thinking, and releasing the results or sharing the results to make sure of the feedback and gaining the benefits. The approach that they suggested will be using three spheres or three-sphere model to manage the whole system. The three spheres are the business, technology, and organization. So basically, we need to look at three different areas. Those different areas will assist together. When integrated properly or correctly, they will create a successful business. In each area, we ask certain questions and look at the answers, or look for the answers that will satisfy the integration area, the gray area here in the middle. If we can find the answers for questions that can satisfy the overlap of these areas together, then we will have a successful integration for the organization's business and technology. So we have organization, business, and technology together. There are four frames that will assist in understanding the organization and organizational issues. Each frame addresses certain area of the organization. The structural frame addresses or focuses on roles and responsibilities, coordination and control. Organization chart at that point will help define this frame. So I will have a chart that will show me the structure for the organization. The human resource, which is a frame that focuses on providing harmony between needs of the organization and needs of people. And then the political frame, which assumes organizations are coalitions composed of varied individuals and interest groups. Each group have their own interest, each group wants something to happen. So conflicts will happen and power will be the key issues for this framework or for this area. The last one is the symbolic frame or symbolic area, which focuses on symbols and meanings related to events, which is more of a cultural importance or cultural issues for the organization or the company. The following is an example of a case study showing system failure due to organizational issues, not technical issues. The case study addresses the $90 million ERP system for Sobeys Canadian grocery store chain, which was abandoned due to organizational issues. They abandoned the whole software, the ERP system, which is $90 million, just because of organizational issues. So a researcher who studied the case said that the problem of building an integrated system that can accommodate different people is a very serious challenge. What they are trying to do, they are trying to satisfy the different groups within the organization, and that's also a political issue. So it came to the political frame and they had organizational issues, and you cannot divorce technology from the socio-cultural issues, and that's what created the problem and made this fail. There are three basic organizational structures. So if we go back to the structural issues or structural frame and look at the structure for the company, what are the structures, the different structures? It could be functional, it could be project, or it could be matrix. And in each one of those structures, the reporting for the CEO will be different. In the functional manager will be reporting to the CEO. In the project, the program managers will be reporting to the CEOs. In a matrix, you will have like a middle ground between the functional and project structures, other personnel that will be reporting to layers of management before releasing the report. So the report will be through layers. This slide shows the different structures and the hierarchy of these structures, and the figure shows who will report to whom in each of these structures. So what is the influence of the organization structure on project? This matrix in the slide shows the project characteristics and their relation on the organizational level. You can see how much authority, involvement, and control has the project manager and the functional manager in each area. And you can see in some areas the project manager has more control than the functional manager. On the other side, you see that the functional manager has more control than the project manager with other areas. So it depends on which area we are addressing, and you can see that in some areas the functional manager has more control than the project manager. The organizational culture is a set of shared assumptions, values, and behaviors that characterize the functioning of an organization. Many experts believe the underlying causes of many companies' problems are not the structure or staff, but the culture. Hostile environment and culture will lower employees' morale and drive them away from the company, searching for other opportunities. Recently, Tesla lost many employees to other companies due to the company's culture. You can check some of the articles that's been published about Tesla employees leaving especially the people that work in the area of autonomous cars to other research and other companies, competitive companies in that area or that research. The organizational culture has 10 characteristics. The member identity, this is one of the characteristics for the culture. The identity of each one within the organization. The group emphasis, how to work in groups, in teams, together, how to collaborate. The people focus, we focus on the person, the employee, and how we give them the ability to take the proper decisions. The unit integration, integrating the different units together and the way that they communicate with each other. The control, how we can control the different processes within the organization. The risk tolerance, the reward criteria. We will add a rewarding system in the company, in the organization, which will increase the morale of the employees. Conflict tolerance, if there was a conflict, how to solve it, how could we mitigate, reduce any other problems or issues that might happen. The means ends orientation, so we need to concentrate on these kind of orientations to make sure that the employees understand what's going on with the organization. The open systems focus, so all these assist in the culture of the organization and forming the culture of the organization. The IT project will be most successful in an organizational culture where these items are strong or balanced. It depends on which characteristics are we talking about. Some of them you need them strong, others you need them to be balanced with each other. Project managers must take time to identify, understand, and manage relationships with all project stakeholders. Using the 4 frames of organizations of the organization can help meet stakeholders' needs and expectations. Senior executives or top management are very important member as a stakeholder. They are one of the stakeholders and they are very important in the success and the commitment of the project. IT governance is one of the issues that we should address, or we should also have emphasis on, because it addresses the authority and control for the key IT activities in the organization, including IT infrastructure, IT use, and project management. The lack of IT governance can be dangerous. You can see many examples. You can look at the cases here from Australia or other cases on the net to see the effect of the absence of IT governance on the system. If the organization has a negative attitude towards IT, it will be difficult for an IT project to succeed. Having a sponsor or supporter that will support the project will be great. Usually we will have like a chief information officer who will be in a higher level and who will help the project, the IT projects. He will be the main stakeholder, he can be the supporter, and he can be the sponsor. He or she can be the sponsor for the project. Assigning non-IT people to IT projects also encourages more commitment. Standards and guidelines help project managers be more effective. Senior management can encourage the use of standard forms and software for project management. Usually we know how to do the technical stuff, but the documentation will be difficult. So it's good to encourage the use of certain forms, or like Microsoft Project for managing projects, to plan and execute the project correctly. Also, the senior management should encourage the development and use of guidelines for writing project plans or providing status information. How to report the project execution results. What are the guidelines that you need to follow? The creation of a project management office or center of excellence can be done if we are dealing with large amount of projects and we are dealing with a big or large organization. Usually in these large organizations, since they have lots of projects to deal with, instead of having one project manager who will deal with all these problems, they will have an office, a whole office, which is called the project management office, and that office will deal with all these issues, problems, and projects. One of the things that we need to understand in a project is the project life cycle, which is a collection of phases. Those phases will define what will be performed at each phase, and the deliverables, the results, the outcomes that will be produced at each phase, at what time, and what will be delivered. In addition, it will show me who's involved in each phase. It will show the control and approval process for the upper management in each phase. How much they are involved, how are they involved, and how can we make it flawless, the approval process and the control from the upper management. What will be the estimated time to complete that project? And of course, what will be the cost associated of accomplishing each phase? So those phases will have one or more deliverables. And when we say deliverable, means a product or a service that will be produced or provided as part of the project by the end, either by the end of the project itself or by the end of each phase. That will be based on the type of project that we are dealing with. In early phases of the project life cycle, the resources need to be identified. So first we need to identify the resources needed. Then we need to identify the level of uncertainty. Then we need to identify the project stakeholders. And at that point, since it's the initial state or the early phase, they will have the greatest opportunity to influence the project and give their feedback at that point. In the middle phases of the project life cycle, the certainty of completing a project improves because now we have additional information, so we know more about the project. We are certain about many things, and based on that, we will have better execution for project processes. At that point also we will know if more resources will be needed or not. In the final phase of the project life cycle, it will focus on ensuring that project requirements were met, and the sponsor approves or the client will approve the completion of the project after delivering all the deliverables or results for the client or the sponsor. The project life cycle phases are the initiation, planning, execution, and closure. As shown in the figure, the project life cycle is associated with monitoring and controlling processes, which spreads across all the other phases. Although these phases are completed sequentially, they might overlap in some project situations. For example, in the case of change in the project scope, during the execution, a new plan has to be developed to address that change. Actually, we can claim that the execution starts from the time you start the initiation. In the first phase, the team will look at the organization's current situation and identify the information technology needs. In addition, the team will start identifying and gathering organization requirements. To document the requirements, the team will use what's called the project scope. The scope will define the boundaries and limitation of the work. If the scope of the project beyond the capabilities of the organization, the organization's IT department, then a request for proposal will be developed to solicit proposals from external contractors, and this is what we call outsourcing. The project scope is a high-level description of the features and functions that characterize the project, which includes project goals and objectives. In addition, the project scope document should include assumptions, constraints, and associated risk. Whether an external contractor or the organization's ID department accepted to do the work, a charter document should be developed to confirm project boundaries, limitations, risks, assumptions, and constraints. The charter document will also include the proposal or the proposed budget and the proposed project duration or the estimated duration. Once it's confirmed, the document will be signed and approved and the project could start. From the contractor side, when selecting a project to execute, the contractor must perform a feasibility analysis to ensure the proper outcome. The analysis will compare different alternatives or solutions for the organization's IT requirements. In some cases, the cost might be high, but can be justified by the benefits of implementing and executing the project. For example, implementing a new medical records system in a hospital with more efficiency and higher security measures will assist in protecting patient information and protecting transactions, and that will weigh the cost of that system. As we stated in the first session, since one of the IT projects that might work or we might address or we might do during the semester is the development of a new product, such a new software package or a new app, then we need to address the system development life cycle or software development life cycle, and this is what we did in the first lecture. And that is a framework for describing the phases involved in developing and maintaining information systems. The system development projects can follow either a predictive life cycle or adaptive software development. For the predictive life cycle, the scope of the project can be clearly articulated and the schedule and cost can be predicted. So we know exactly what's going on. That's why we have a predictive life cycle. For the adaptive software development life cycle, requirements cannot be clearly expressed. It's a software until now, I don't know what will happen. I don't know the features and full functions of the features for the software. The project at that time will be driven by the mission and the different component based. It will be using time-based cycles to meet target dates, and it will be released to the sponsor or to the client for feedback and different iteration of design and development. The predictive life cycle models such as waterfall model, which is also was explained in the first lecture, which has well-defined linear stages of systems development and support. The spiral model, which shows the software that's developed using an iterative or spiral approach rather than linear approach. Incremental approach or incremental build model, which provides for it's being provided for progressive development of operational software. The prototyping model, which is used for developing prototypes to clarify user requirements. The rapid application development RAD, which is used to produce system quickly without sacrificing quality. Included in the project what's called management reviews or phase exits. These reviews occur after each phase to evaluate the project's progress, likely success, and continued compatibility with the organizational goals. A project should successfully pass through each of the project phases in order to continue to the next. A good IT project manager needs to know when to stop if he or she recognizes that the project is going to fail. It's wrong to insist on pursuing project activities while we know that the project will not succeed. With the new technology, we should be able to stop before we hit budget or go over budget or have a schedule overrun. IT projects can be very diverse in terms of size, complexity, products produced, application area, and resource requirements. IT project teams or team members often have diverse backgrounds and skill set that will assist them in implementing the different IT projects, from networking to software development to design to database to website development, other applications. So we have many skills that should be within the team to assist in implementing or executing a project. The IT project use diverse technologies that change rapidly. So most likely, if you are using a technology, it will change in 6 months or a year, and it can be obsolete. So for that, we have to be careful when using technology in certain area, and the people that will be working in that area should be highly specialized to know how to deal with these issues. Stakeholders are a very important component of a project and very important factor in the success of that project. Project stakeholders include customers or users, the same, sponsor, project manager, project team, functional manager, operations manager, and the business partners. We can also include contractors, suppliers, other people from the outside that will be interacting with us through that project. So those are considered as part of the stakeholders. Stakeholders' interests should be defined and their feedback should be documented during requirement identification. And that's what we said at the beginning. This is where we get the most involvement from stakeholders. So we need their feedback to make sure that we are collecting the proper requirement to execute that project. Stakeholders can be divided into primary and secondary stakeholders. The primary stakeholders are those people and groups ultimately affected by the project. The secondary stakeholders are intermediaries in the process of delivering services to primary stakeholders. Potential supporters are opponents, and opponents of the project will also be identified. So we need to know who supports the project and who's against the project, and see if we can work a middle ground or work the conflict between the two groups. Questions should be asked to define stakeholders' expectations and the benefits of being one of the stakeholders of the project. Stakeholders might have certain resources to commit or avoid committing for the sake of the success of the project. So we have to make sure that if we can utilize the resources, any resource, to make the project succeed, it will be better to, again, solve the conflict between the people that will commit and the people that will not commit or avoid committing to the project. So that's one of the project managers' problems to solve or to address, to make sure that everybody on the same page. Stakeholders should identify and share their interests that might cause a conflict with the project. Any information that they know about, a contractor, or any relation with other people, contractors or internal people in the IT department, should be identified to make sure that there is no conflict of interest between the stakeholders. Part of the first phase will be gathering and analyzing project requirements. IT requirements are customers or customer needs that are delivered as a solution to a specific IT problem. Those requirements are important because the requirements will be translated or will be actually transformed into design specifications. The requirements are defined as things that should be discovered before starting fully design or before building or executing the project. If you know the requirements, you can understand what's needed or what will be required from you by the end of the project, what should be delivered, and that will assist in the success of the project. The different types of requirements, you will see functional requirements, which are defined that what system is supposed to accomplish. The non-functional requirements, which are requirements that specify the criteria that can be used to judge the operation of a system. And we have global requirements, and then we have the product or project constraints or limitations. For the global requirements, it's those are the requirements that will assist in knowing the relationship with that project or the IT with the other societies, other networks, or the global network. The figure in this slide shows the template of requirements breakdown structure, which might include as many as n requirements and n functions and or n features even. This slide and the following 3 slides list some of the methods used for requirement gathering. You can interview the people that will be involved in the project, interview stakeholders, and make sure to collect the requirements. You can make facilitated group sessions where you can also brainstorm and collect the proper information. You can create prototypes. You can observe the different processes within the company, and based on that, based on your observation, you will see that there is a place for improvement in certain area, or there is a need for a certain technology, or there is a need for a software, and based on that you can generate or collect the requirements for the project. We might have done that project before. So if we did the project before and we have requirements that's been collected before, we can reuse part of the requirements that's been collected before, and that is part of the documentation process. If you have everything that's been documented before, then you can utilize it and reuse it if you need. Some of the requirements will change based on the current technology, but there are many other requirements that could be the same based on the organization culture or the organization needs. We have also the business process analysis. We will look at the business process and see what kind of requirements will be or we need to consider to execute the IT project that we are assigned to. We can also use case scenarios where we can describe the relationship between the different entities within the system to understand how those requirements relate to them and how we can assist them with a new IT or new proposed IT project. When you collect requirements, you want to make sure that they are complete, they are clear, they're valid, they're measurable, they're testable, maintainable, reliable, look and feel, feasible, precedent, scalable, stable, they have performance, they are safe, and they lead to the proper specifications. The collected and analyzed requirements will be documented and confirmed with the stakeholders for the final approval. The requirements document will include the scope, general requirements, specific requirements, risks, assumptions, and constraints. Final draft will be submitted to the upper management for approval. This document will serve as an input for the planning phase to plan the proper activities and resources needed to accomplish the project goal and of course to accomplish the project successfully. That will be all for this session. If you have any questions or concerns, please use the provided online channels to communicate with me, or you can come to my office during office hours for the face-to-face communication. Thank you and have a great day.